This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
The X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell is largely an opinion talk show. All opinions, comments, or statements of fact expressed by Rob McConnell's guests are strictly their own and are not to be construed as those of the X-Zone Radio Show or endorsed in any manner by Rob McConnell, Relmar McConnell Media Company, the X-Zone Broadcast Network, its affiliated networks, stations, employees, or advertisers.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X-Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
And welcome to the X-Zone, everyone. I am Rob McConnell, and for the next 4 hours, I am your host. I am your guide as together we cross the time-space continuum to this place that I've been calling home for the past 26 years, the X-Zone. It's a place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard. It's a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. And the X-Zone comes to you Monday through Friday from 11 p.m. until... No, I am wrong. From 10 p.m. until 2 a.m., right here on the X-Zone Broadcast Network and our growing family of broadcast affiliates right around this great, big, wonderful world of ours. If you would like to visit us on any of the social media sites, X-Zone Radio TV, our main website is xzoneradiotv.com, and to find out all about the X-Zone Broadcast Network and our fine group of programs and hosts, visit us at www.xzbn.net. You know, this first guest I have tonight, X-Zone Nation, is a gentleman I have had the pleasure of knowing and having on the air for about 26 years now. We were talking before air. He's been doing his investigation into the paranormal and teaching for 38 years, and we've been doing the show for 26 years. And I believe this gentleman was one of the very first guests we had on the show going way back when, and I'm talking about Loyd Auerbach. He is the director of the Office of Paranormal Investigations and president of the Forever Family Foundation, an organization supporting research on life after death and the work of spirit mediums in the grieving process. He was appointed to the faculty of Atlantic University of Virginia Beach, Virginia, in late 2010, where he teaches an online parapsychology course. He is the co-author with the late renowned psychic Anne Martin of The Ghost Detective Guide to the Haunted Sand. And we're going to be talking to Loyd tonight about a new book he has coming out. It's called Psychic Dreaming. And joining me now is Loyd Auerbach. And Loyd, great having you back on the X-Zone.
Thanks, Rob.
Tell us about what have you been up to since you and I last talked, I think about 3 or 4 years ago now.
Well, you know, Annette and I published that book, the Ghost Detective's Guide to Haunted San Francisco. And unfortunately, she passed away.
A great loss.
She was a great psychic medium and a great investigative partner for me. But I've been more and more involved with the Forever Family Foundation and the Rhine Research Center. Mm-hmm. I'm also on the board of directors for the Rhine Center and teach online classes for them. So those are two things that kind of keep me pretty busy, plus teaching at other places as well. I am teaching parapsychology courses for a few other places. And, of course, writing keeps me busy and performing magic and mentalism and a little bit of chocolate helps me.
You're still doing the chocolate. That is wonderful.
I am. Yes. I still am making chocolate. They can find out about that at hauntedbychocolate.com. But I mostly focus on doing guided chocolate tastings. That seems to be the thing that people like the most.
Chocolate makes the world go round in my book.
Yeah, absolutely.
Why do you think the paranormal is as popular today, Loyd, as it was when you and I first started into doing what we do? You 38 years ago, me 26 years ago.
Well, it's people have these experiences. People have psychic experiences of all sort.
Mm-hmm.
And there's, in some respects today, there's more ability for people to converse about it because of the internet. It allows people to really talk to each other, to look for information about the subject, which they didn't have access to before. Unfortunately, it also means there's a lot of bad information out there, and that includes a lot of the TV shows. So it hasn't quite normalized the experiences, but it's allowed people to come out of the closet about their experiences and certainly their interest in the subject.
Loyd, you and I will have to take a commercial break very shortly, so please stand by. Congratulations on your new book, and congratulations on all the wonderful things that you do, because Lord knows, in today's society, there is so much, and I'm going to use a Trumpism here, fake news, that it's nice to know there are people like you that are still out there getting the real aspects of the paranormal to those people who want to learn and better understand. So thanks for the great job that you've been doing over the years.
Thank you.
Exonation, Loyd Auerbach is our guest. Now, if you'd like to follow Loyd on Twitter, it's very simple. All you have to do is @Prof Paranormal. That's it, Prof Paranormal. And Loyd Auerbach and I will be back on the other side of this break as we continue here in the X Zone from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. My name is Rob McConnell. If you'd like to send me an email, xzoneradiotv.com, or you can follow us on Facebook, X Zone Radio TV. Don't go away.
This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
How would you like to be able to read other people's minds? Well, the next best thing is here. When you know how to read a person's name, you know how the person thinks, feels, and behaves. Each letter in our name holds a key to unlock our true essence. Our name contains both our gifts and challenges in this lifetime. Mnemology science discovers personality secrets hidden in the placement of the letters of our names, including the first and last impression people remember about us. Sharon shows us how to interpret the arrangement of letters as outlined in her book, Know the Name, Know the Person. Sharon Lynn Wyeth created mnemology science after 18 years of research and testing her theories, and has supported thousands of people around the world in understanding themselves and others better. You'll enjoy Sharon's unique teachings as she shares her system to learn the gifts behind your given birth name. Even if you don't like your birth name, there are jewels in this book. If you're thinking of changing your name, ready to name your child, or wanting to get along better with others, this is the book for you. If you'd like to improve your relationships and change your life for the better, get the book today, Know the Name, Know the Person, or visit www.knowthename.com. That's www.knowthename.com.
Take a step back in time and discover old Florida cuisine at Marsh Landing Restaurant in Fellsmere, Florida. Enjoy delicacies such as frog legs, gator tail, catfish, and swamp cabbage, or enjoy the more traditional cuisine such as hand-cut Angus steaks, ribs, and seafood. Join us for breakfast with a southern flair featuring sweet potato pancakes, biscuits and gravy, and much more. Planning a party? Marsh Landing's private dining rooms can accommodate groups from 8 to 80 people. While you visit, enjoy the historic pictures, artifacts, and stories that line the walls. Marsh Landing is truly a unique experience. Marsh Landing Restaurant, 44 North Broadway in historic downtown Fellsmere, or visit marshlandingrestaurant.com. Marsh Landing, old Florida cuisine at its best.
If you're a seeker, don't miss the inspiring book Shamanic Awakening, Between the Dark and the Daylight. This remarkable work chronicles shamanic counselor and indigenously trained dream decoder Sandra Cochran's 35 years of experience with diverse wisdom keepers throughout the Americas. Sandy's initiations across the British Isles, Turkey, Greece, and Egypt, combined with her knowledge of symbology, psychology, and myth, influence her dream blog and workshops. Sandy offers private readings, sacred international journeys, a meditative CD, and her book, Shamanic Awakening, to encourage you as you navigate your earth walk and create a deeper connection to yourself. Find this and more at her website, starwalkervisions.com.
Welcome back, everyone. This is the X Zone. I am Rob McConnell. Loyd Auerbach is our guest, and if you'd like to follow Loyd on Twitter, it's at Prof Paranormal. I'm going to be talking to Loyd a little bit about his new book. It's entitled Psychic Dreaming, Dreamworking, Reincarnation, Out-of-Body Experiences, and Clairvoyance. And before we get into your book, you mentioned something about the unreality of reality TV when it comes to the paranormal. How do how does this make you feel when you watch these shows and, they're anything but real?
Well, I think if the public recognize that reality shows are produced for entertainment instead of factually as documentaries, I would feel a lot better. Frankly, I'm bored by most of them.
Yeah.
But seeing the impact of them, it's great that they're getting people to talk about this. And, there are tens of thousands of ghost hunters out there now because of the TV shows.
Yeah.
But they're following along with a method that TV producers put together, not scientists.
The last count, we have registered here in the X Zone over 3,000 ghost groups in the U.S. alone.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and a lot of these groups are true believers. They, ghost researchers keep history alive. They're the greatest historians going. And
some of them.
Yeah, I agree with you, some of them. And when I see what other groups perceive to be the proper way of doing investigations based on the TV shows, it's like somebody putting their fingernails on a chalkboard and
Yeah, it's a little crazy. Just the very idea of investigating in the dark itself is contradictory to any sort of scientific observation. And frankly, it's contrary to the actual experiences. People don't actually rarely have experiences with the lights out. So it's ridiculous.
But it's that shock and awe effect that TV producers like getting.
Well, back in the 80s, before night shot cameras came out, when I was doing TV segments with folks, the director or producer would often say, can we turn the lights down really low or out completely to make it look more spooky? And thankfully, the camera guy would always say, yeah, but then we couldn't see anything.
I could never understand that myself, but anyway. Tell us about your new book, Psychic Dreaming, Dreamworking, Reincarnation, Out-of-Body Experiences, and Clairvoyance.
So this is actually a revision of a book I put out a number of years ago. It's focused on how psychic experience, extrasensory perception especially, and also a little bit on ghostly visitations, but how all that kind of comes out in the dream state, which is probably the most fertile altered state we have for being psychic, especially precognitive. So the book kind of covers the different types of experiences people have. I have a lot of examples that people had written into me of their various psychic dreams, but also talks about how to work with them, how to work with your own dreams, and what dreams are in general, and how to work with those just in general, not just specifically with psychic dreams.
Why is dreaming so important to us?
There's, from the actual scientific perspective, there's actually a debate in science when it comes down to it. There's that school of thought in neuroscience amongst some that we should not even remember our dreams, that dreaming is a process by which the brain kind of gets rid of junk, kind of like defragging the brain like a computer would be defragged, a hard drive would be defragged. But the other side of that is that working with your dreams actually reflect not just your day's residue, but also reflect issues that are popping up, possibly issues that are deep-seated, possibly more recent things. And by working with those dreams, looking for your personal symbols and metaphors, you actually get a benefit out of it. And while both sides have their kind of support, it's very clear from people who do dream work that they get positive benefit out of it, not negative benefit.
Such as?
Well, let's just talk very simply about a very cliched statement. I'm going to sleep on it. The idea of going to bed, thinking of an idea or thinking of something that's about to happen or a decision you have to make goes back thousands of years. The Egyptians talked about dream incubation, the idea that you could program yourself, kind of tell yourself to dream about something and let it play out. It's almost as if you're role-playing in some respects, possible outcomes for things. And it accesses information that's in your memory and it's in your unconscious that you don't consciously necessarily have access to. And if you have worked with your dreams and kind of understand your own normal symbology, you can figure out what your unconscious is telling you about what's the best way to go about this, what's the best decision to make, what are the possibilities. So you can definitely get some benefit from that.
Let me sleep on it. I've done that myself, and it seems that in the dream state, you're able to work on problems that just escape you during the day, and when you do wake up, it's like, oh my gosh, there's the solution. It was right in front of me. How come I couldn't face it? Do you think that during the dream state that those on the other side of the veil have a greater accessibility to those who are still on this side?
Well, the fact is that during the dream state, our inhibitions and normal programming against being open and psychic, whether it's to just psychic information or to potentially people who are trying to communicate with us, they're dropped. Those defenses are dropped because you can always write it off, just say, oh, that was just a dream. It wasn't anything real. Whether or not people try to contact us probably has as much to do with whether you want to be contacted. In other words, whether you're trying to contact with someone on the other side as anything else.
Where do angels fit into the entire scenario? A lot of people believe that they have angelic connections when they are asleep, and that angels come to them in their dreams just like their dearly departed do. In your opinion, after investigating and teaching all these years, Loyd, is the angelic realm part of the paranormal, or is the angelic realm an interpretation that the person who has the experience bases on their own religious philosophical beliefs?
Well, I'd go with the second there. If there are angels at all, they fall under the idea of the divine, of God, and there is no way science can touch that because that's magic. That's beyond science.
Right.
It's above. That's truly supernatural. And we talk about psychic and paranormal phenomena as related to human experience and human abilities and what we're capable of. I've yet to see anything other than interpretational stuff that suggests that it's truly an angel. And actually, depending on the religion you grew up in, if you follow the Old Testament, you really don't want angels showing up. That's not a good thing.
That's true. That's true. Well, yeah.
I mean, if you're a prophet, it's one thing. But otherwise, if you look in the Old Testament, the angels were the ones who were knocking people off.
They were the deity's henchmen.
That's correct.
Yeah. I never looked at it that way. Thank you. Reincarnation. Is reincarnation real? And is there scientific evidence to support the hypothesis and the claims made by people who claim to have been reincarnated?
Well, there is evidence. There's good evidence of children who remember past lives, previous lives. Most of the cases are investigated by folks at the University of Virginia or University of Iceland and a few other places in other parts of the world. And these are children who spontaneously recall a past life. They're around 2 to 3 years old when they might start talking about this. So their minds, their memories have not been contaminated with stories and information the way an adult under hypnosis might have been contaminated. We tend not to include any sort of hypnotic regression in this process. And there are cases, really good cases on record, where a 3 or 4 year old will not only recall details or who they were, how they behaved, but actually names and dates and addresses and all sorts of stuff that allow the researchers to easily track down the past life individual. And then they spend some time making sure that the family of this kid could not possibly have known this information, couldn't have been in touch with that family or known about that person. And we have cases like that on record.
So how do we explain that?
Well, that's a really good question. At this point, unless you consider a couple possibilities, one would be reincarnation, that whether it is the consciousness of the person who used to live that is reborn now, or something about their memory. Kind of think of it as a software issue, that there's memory out there that's floating around that gets absorbed by the child developing. One of those two things. It could also be that the child is incredibly psychic and is able to pick up this information, but and that's a debate, by the way, within parapsychology. But from the non-psychic, non-paranormal perspective, I haven't ever seen a good explanation other than that the child was coached. That's the only thing you typically hear from the true skeptics and debunkers about this. And that's pretty easy to kind of shunt aside.
Well, is there a connection between out-of-body experiences, reincarnation, and astral travel, then?
Well, not between reincarnation and out-of-body experience, but astral travel is another name. It's kind of an old occultist name for out-of-body experience and out-of-body travel. We have research, of course, with folks who have done out-of-body, as well as tons of spontaneous reports of cases. There's, it's a really interesting thing, because if you look at the occult literature and astral projection literature, a lot of them talk about sending your spirit body out of your body, and yet the people who are the best examples or the best research participants, subjects, always said that their spirits didn't leave, but they sent part of themselves out, almost like a space probe. Part of their consciousness would split off and still be linked to them wherever it went.
To your knowledge, or to the best of your ability to share any information, to the point that I'm going to ask you, has any psychic, or has there been any type of psychic communication between people on this planet and other people on other planets?
Well, not verified, but there have been a number of psychics who have claimed that they have been communicating with entities on other planets, or in spacecraft, or even in other dimensions. But, if somebody said, I got a message from so-and-so in China, and I can very clearly have this information, unless we checked, A, the information to see if it was valid, which didn't necessarily have to come from a person, and B, whether that person was even in existence in China, we couldn't verify any bit of this. And it's even worse when we're talking about extraterrestrials, because we don't have any confirmation that they would even be in telepathic contact with anybody, because we don't know if that anybody is there.
Would you consider yourself to be psychic yourself?
A little bit. I certainly have psychic experiences from time to time, and I've worked with people who have kind of, I guess you could say, amped me up a little bit. I certainly teach psychic development for people, having people access their own abilities. I'm teaching, in fact, an online class starting for the Rhine Center, which starts on March 6th. And, it's not hard for people to access some bits of that, and it just depends on how much practice they want to put into it.
You and I have to take another break, Loyd. When we come back, I'd like to ask you about any personal experiences that you may have had of a psychic nature. Sure. Loyd Auerbach is our very special guest, Exonation. And Loyd, if people would like to find out more information about the courses that you give online with the Rhine Center, how can they do that?
The best place to go is RHINE, that's Rhine.org. And you'll see an education category on the left-hand side of the website, and that'll take you to the Rhine Education Center.
All right. Please stand by, my friend. Exonation, Loyd Auerbach, and I will be back on the other side of this break. And if you'd like to communicate with Loyd on Twitter... Thanks, Craig. You scared the heck out of me, buddy. If you'd like to connect with Loyd on Twitter, it's at Prof Paranormal. I'll be back on the other side of this break. Don't go away.
This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
There's a legend shared by many indigenous cultures of a time when the nations were cast to the four corners of the world. Each nation was given a body of sacred knowledge that held a different portion of the truth to preserve. True reality could not be known until all the nations reunited, combining the information. If a single one was missing, the world could not be reborn and darkness would prevail. The Science of Magic Radio is dedicated to reuniting the sacred knowledge. With the understanding, none of us has all the answers, but together we can open new perceptions and possibilities. Through our combined vision, the world can be reborn into a place where darkness no longer prevails. Join me, Gwilda Wiyaka, and the Science of Magic daily on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, xzbn.net, or visit us at thescienceofmagic.net.
Gibbs A. Williams, Ph.D., is a practicing psychoanalyst, supervisor, researcher, and author in New York City. Much of his life has been dedicated to understanding nature and the uses of meaningful coincidences or synchronicities. His radical and original non-Jungian, non-mystical, non-magical theory of synchronicities illuminates much of the fog surrounding this challenging and perplexing topic. His ideas and manners are fresh, presented in a style that is both entertaining and highly informative. He is also an expert on crisis intervention, specially focused on violence reduction for the police and citizens, mastering anxiety, frustration, and stress without the use of medication, and effectively preventing and treating heroin addiction. Dr. Williams can be contacted at his email address at gwwilliamsny11@aol.com or visit his website at
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X-Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365.
True healing must address 4 levels: physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual, for us to live joyful and productive lives. We tend to treat 3 of the 4, leaving the spiritual languishing. If you're tired of the same dysfunctional patterns cropping up in your life, Soul Balancing is for you. Trixie Phelps, owner and founder of Soul Balancing, is a naturally gifted energy healer trained in numerous esoteric forms, including shamanism. Trixie has created a powerful modality that safely and effectively clears your energetic field. A soul balancing session can remove interference, heal trauma, and restore your hope. Contact Trixie for a life-changing long-distance session today, www.soulbalancing.world.
Welcome back, everyone. Loyd Auerbach is our guest this hour. Loyd has a brand new book that's coming out this coming April. It's entitled Psychic Dreaming, Dreamworking, Reincarnation, Out-of-Body Experiences, and Clairvoyance. And it's published by our good friends at Llewellyn. If you'd like to connect with Loyd on Twitter, at Prof Paranormal. That's at Prof paranormal. With any of the psychic experiences that you've had, Loyd, you were very close with Annette Martin. You guys did a lot of work together. Has Annette ever tried to make communication or contact with you from the other side?
Actually, she's communicated multiple times through a variety of mediums, which has been very interesting. It's as someone who's involved with the Forever Family Foundation, especially as president, we have a process by which we certify mediums. So we have some excellent mediums who are very evidential. And at our annual meeting, we have kind of get some guidance from the other side, you might say, with a panel of mediums. And Annette came through very strongly a couple of years ago,
wow.
Even though she was not invited to come through. She just kind of butted in, which was interesting.
That sounds
But
like Annette. Tell us about the Forever Family Foundation.
This is a foundation that was started a little over 11 years ago by a couple who lost their daughter in a tragic accident. And a medium kind of through a friend kind of provided them with incredible relief from their grief. And Bob Ginsberg, it's Bob and Fran Ginsberg, Bob himself, who was a skeptic, total skeptic, was eventually convinced because of how much evidence came through. So they started, they spoke to a number of researchers and created a certification process, which is a tough test for mediums to pass in order to be kind of listed on our website. And they also have to give back. It's a 501c3 nonprofit organization, all volunteer. So the mediums also volunteer for our foundation in many, many ways. And we have grief retreats. We have a lot of support for research in all aspects of life after death, the survival of bodily death. So it's very much both a practical and a scientific organization that goes forward. And it's free to join. I mean, people can just join and get our magazine and participate for free at foreverfamilyfoundation.org.
Is it easier for a child who's passed to communicate with their parent than it is for the parent to communicate with the child?
You mean if the parent is passed and the child is alive?
Yeah, and the other side. For example, if the child passes and the parent is alive, is it easier for the child to communicate, or if it was the opposite, where the parent had passed and the child would still be alive?
It doesn't seem to matter. The one thing that I've observed, and the mediums are pretty clear on this, is this is a two-person process with a medium as the intermediary. So we've had situations where, and I've spoken to people who have said that the medium was actually terrible because the medium didn't connect with their father, and it turned out the medium connected with their mother, who was deceased, and they didn't want to talk to their mother. So that was clearly, even though it was definitely their mother, and they said, all the evidence that came through was absolute. It was a terrible medium because she couldn't connect with the father. Well, if the father didn't want to talk to the woman, then there's nothing the medium can do about that. So really, this is kind of a two-person thing, and what we usually suggest, what mediums suggest, is for the person who wants to contact, whether it's a child or a parent who wants to contact someone on the other side before they see the medium, to really mentally put out there that that's who they want to talk to, and hopefully entice them, invite them to come speak through the medium or to the medium.
If somebody comes to the Forever Family Foundation and they would like to communicate with someone who is on the other side, and the medium tries, how do they know if the person that they're seeking has not already been reincarnated? And what happens if they have? Can they still make connection?
That's a really interesting question. And what's interesting about that, and I've heard this from mediums and also my reading of mediums around the world, is that what we call the other side is kind of outside our time and space. Time doesn't work the same way there. At least that's what we hear back. So what we call now, we may be talking to them right after they died. They may be reincarnated in our kind of parallel time now, but they were a spirit, or they were on that other side at some point, and that's what they're kind of projecting back from. At least that's what we hear from the mediums.
Why is it?
On other occasions, it's possible that the people that they can't communicate, who aren't communicating, actually have been reincarnated. There's no way for the medium to know that.
Why is it that some spirits or apparitions stay behind, ghosts stay behind, while others go to the light?
It seems that most people move on. I'd say that probably 95 to 98% of all ghost sightings are people who have just died or certainly within a week of their death, probably normally between 24 and 48 hours. And then they're never heard from again unless they come through a medium. So the ones who stick around, the stories we get from witnesses, so the communications from witnesses, the communications from psychics or mediums, seem to indicate that each individual who's stuck around has their own personal reason or situation. And it runs the gamut from people being in denial that they're dead or claim that they don't know that they're dead. I think I see it more as denial than anything else. To folks who just don't want to let go. They love it here. They want to stay with their family. Their family is in grief and they want to make sure their family's okay. We get ideas or statements that they're afraid of what's next. They didn't know if there was a heaven or hell for sure, and they certainly don't want to find out if they thought they were doing wrong while they were alive. So they stick around for whatever reason. But I have to say that it's not likely that that's the only reason people can stay. It's because we'd have a lot more people who'd stick around as ghosts otherwise. We think that there are environmental factors that also allow, during either at the time of death or right after, also allow a person to stick around.
So many people have gone to Waverly Hills Sanatorium, and it seems to be one of the top tourist attractions for the people who are into the paranormal. Do you think that there is as much activity there, or do you think that a lot of the activity that has been reported is being created by the person themselves?
Well, first we have to separate the ghost or apparitional idea from what we call hauntings or residual hauntings, the idea that places hold memory of their history. And a place like Waverly definitely does, just like Alcatraz here does,
right,
in the San Francisco Bay Area. But there are no ghosts in Alcatraz. It's just there's real bad feelings in certain places, and you could interpret that as being ghosts. And there have been some other things that have been experienced, but there's no conscious beings that are there. So that's part A. In a place like that, however, especially with ghost hunters and other people trying to get electronic voice phenomena and other things, they could easily be creating that themselves based on their unconscious picking up what's been imprinted in Waverly Hills. And one of the biggest questions we have about electronic voice phenomena is what the source of that EVP actually is when it's a very clear one, because it very easily could be the operator, not the spirit.
Could it actually be the thought of the operator that is being put onto the recording device?
Yep, the thought and expectation.
Yeah, wow. Do you put a lot of faith into the EVP process?
No, not really. Mainly because we don't get anything out of it. It's great when it happens, especially when it happens spontaneously, but it's not like we're getting good information from it. I'd much rather talk to or have the witnesses themselves, the people who have told us that they've had experiences in that place. I've worked with them as well as psychics and mediums we bring in, but the people who have witnessed things already, who have experienced things, which is what we're investigating to begin with in most of our cases. If we can get them past any fear, we can get them to be the medium, to be the psychic, more or less.
What about
we often get much more information.
What about this new technology that's coming out? I've heard of something called a ghost box.
Yeah, there are all these different variations of a ghost box or spirit box or Frank's box. They vary from radio scanner technology to supposedly random sampling of EMF to create words. And, they have not been tested under controlled conditions. I've sat in a couple of sessions where people have used them. And frankly, what I heard, the people in the room who had been using them for quite some time, they said it said X, Y, and Z, and it didn't sound like that to me at all. It's the same with EVP. Some of them are very clear. Some of them do come up with very clear things. The question is whether or not that's you, again, the operator affecting the random scanner. Let me just back up and say that we have a ton of evidence and research in the laboratory of living people affecting random number generators and other random devices. So until these devices are tested to see if living people can affect them, because we have more evidence of that than spirits, in any place where a ghost box gets a message, but no one's having an experience of the ghost, it's just the ghost box or just the EVP, I'm going to go with a human being. I'm going to say that they're the source.
But once again, if the operator can affect the instrumentation that is being used, is it possible that if you get a group of people together who believe something so strong that they can actually create an illusion that they see themselves because they are so involved in the same belief?
Well, they certainly can do that through suggestion.
Right.
That's one of the problems with working in the dark, is that it doesn't take much to spook other people or to get people to experience things in the dark. And it's just, it's not a good way to be an observer, a good observer. But you're absolutely right. I mean, people can actually create things in their own minds and kind of. There was a study last year, I believe it was last year, where someone played a bunch of EVPs for people who had never heard them before, and something like 87% of the people disagreed with what it said. But as soon as the researcher said, "Doesn't it say, 'Hi there, Bill?' it flipped. Like it was like 13% didn't hear that. The rest of them heard,
"Wow,
hi there, Bill."
I've been doing this show a long time, my friend, as you well know. And I don't know how many EVPs that people have played for me on this show. And I must be honest with you. If I can actually say that one or two, at the very most, resembled what the person said said was the actual definition of the EVP, that's a lot. Like they say, can't you hear it? It's as clear as day. And I'm saying, well, no, not really. Listen again. Yeah. And how many times do you have to listen to the same thing and still say, no, that's not what I hear? So how much is the desire to prove the paranormal real part of the phenomenon that we're still seeing today?
I don't know how much is part of trying to prove it. Certainly the fans of the shows want to experience what they see their idols doing on the TV shows. I think that's, it's almost like they're like some of the nerdiest of the Star Trek fans trying to act like they are on TV. And so many of them talk about wanting to get a TV show. It's kind of, it's sad in some respects. So EVP has been a big part of the paranormal shows because it's something they can play on television.
Right.
That plays big. And I don't know, I've asked these folks why they have no curiosity as to what's happening and why it's happening. They just want to have the experience or get an EVP. And I try not to listen to those, try not to accept any sort of request to analyze EVPs or even photos for that matter. It's the same thing with photos. Photographs.
Lloyd, stand by, my friend. You and I have to take our final break. X-Zone Nation, Loyd Auerbach is our guest. He has a new book coming out in April, Psychic Dreaming, Dreamworking, Reincarnation, Out-of-Body Experiences, and Clairvoyance. And if you'd like to follow Lloyd on Twitter, at Prof Paranormal. And don't forget the courses through the Ryan Research Institute. We'll be back on the other side of this break. Don't go away.
This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X-Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember, 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365.
I am Dr. Carl O'Helvey, founder, president of a new cancer foundation focusing on evidence-based physical, mental, and spiritual interventions, including natural cancer cures, prayer, meditation, affirmations, nutrition, and other related holistic cancer prevention and cure modalities. These are used in cancer education, research, and financing care. I ask for your help to continue this important work by donating at www.holisticcancerfoundation.com.
Wouldn't you love to know the secret to everything? I'm Dr. Kimberly McGeorge, and on The Secret to Everything, we will merge the practical with open investigation into all realms of the mysterious. We will talk to cutting-edge alternative health practitioners, those who inspire and motivate you in business and life, and of course, we will share stories of the paranormal, conspiracy, and cryptozoology. You will transform because of the frequency I carry, the frequencies my guests carry. Life may never be the same after you listen to this program, for the secret to everything is for you, the listener, for those who desire more in every area of their lives and believe that it can still be found. Listen and discover thesecrettoeverything.com.
Little children aren't the only ones afraid of the dark. Millions of soldiers return from war zones with PTSD, anger, frustration, fear, and loneliness, much of which surfaces during the darkness of the night. You have the chance to change the lives of these American heroes. Songs and Stories for Soldiers.us provides free MP3 players for these men and women. With a list of 3 million songs in 16 different styles, 100,000 audiobooks, and 30,000 old-time radio programs, every veteran can find something to soothe and comfort them at no cost. All our players contain an 8-hour audio program designed to help veterans fall asleep. With 1,500 plus vets now participating, it's our goal to deliver 10,000 audio players this year. Go to our website at songsandstoriesforsoldiers.us. Help us help a veteran make it through the night.
Exonation Loyd Auerbach is our guest. He's got a new book that is coming out in April. Psychic Dreaming, Dreamworking, Reincarnation, Out-of-Body Experiences, and Clairvoyance. And Loyd was also the co-author with the late renowned psychic Annette Martin, who was on the show a number of times, of The Ghost Detective's Guide to Haunted San Francisco. Once again, if you'd like to follow Loyd on Twitter, at Prof Paranormal, and if you'd like to take any of the courses that are offered by the Ryan Research Center, what's their website again, Loyd?
RHINE.org.
Do me a favor, say hi to Sally the next time you see her for us.
I sure will.
She's one great lady. Where do you think the next logical step in credible research into claims of the paranormal should be, Loyd?
Well, I think more research needs to be done in the application of remote viewing, because it's something that has been applied even in government service, as well as in real life. And because it has a payoff, it makes a lot of sense to actually put some energy into that and some money into that, especially given that we could be looking for terrorists and criminals like they used to in those circumstances.
What's next for Loyd Auerbach? You've got your courses, you're teaching, you're still writing. Do you do independent investigation still?
I still do investigation from time to time. I like to send my students out where I can. Mm-hmm. But I'm involved right now in putting some courses together for a website that is launching in May. It's actually launching on May the 4th. Some folks in the UK are putting up the Church of Jediism, and it's the churchofjediism.org or becometheforce.com. and we are putting together kind of a Jedi training for that. And so I'm putting together some stuff on developing your psychic powers, you might say.
All right. For some of our listeners who may not be into Jedis and Jediism, how would you best explain to them what this course will actually do?
Well, all the courses, which are going to be a multiple level course training, is somewhat based in Star Wars. You know, the idea in Star Wars that's kind of taking off in some places, and it's an old idea, is that there's a universal force that ties us all together, ties all living things and all matter and energy together. And you can go to physics and call it the grand unified field theory. You can go to Star Wars and call it the Force. Mm-hmm. And the concept here that they're doing through the Jediism site is really to provide people with a mindfulness, interconnectedness type thing rather than a religious perspective. And so there are going to be courses in mindfulness, meditation, some martial arts, because that's part of being a Jedi we see in the movies. And then, of course, the psychic development, which will be ESP and psychokinesis, a little bit of mind over matter for people to practice as well. But we'll also be talking about ethics and, living a good life and living a happy life.
We can all use that these days, can't we?
Yeah, absolutely.
Based on your experience, what, in your opinion, is the most powerful proof that you yourself have had in the existence of the paranormal?
Well, for personal proof, otherwise it falls under evidence, because proof is mm-hmm. an odd thing. On the ghostly side, one of my earlier cases involved a family that was independently seeing the ghost of the woman who used to live in the house for over a year and a half before the son, the boy in that case, spoke up and confronted his mother and grandmother and father that they had already also been seeing the ghost, because they weren't talking to each other. They were all afraid to freak out everybody else in the family. And the boy had been talking to the woman for a year and a half almost every day. And when we investigated this, there was an enormous amount of information that we got from the boy, mainly family stories, that I had to track down the woman's only living relative to actually confirm, and they were confirmed. All the stories were confirmed. So that was a real interesting situation, especially since part of what we got was the ghost asking us questions about which related directly to the drive we had from the university to the house in Livermore. And in fact, if people want to read about the story, it's going to be in Leslie Kean's book, Surviving Death, which is out in March. And it was just a really impossible situation that led to either the kid being incredibly psychic or there was a ghost there. And certainly the latter was the better explanation. Otherwise, I've had out-of-body experiences myself. I had them when I was working at the American Society for Psychical Research. I have worked with someone in the 90s who was able to do mind over matter, psychokinesis, mm-hmm. kind of his method that I teach. So I've had little, not only personal experiences, but witnessed other people doing things. Certainly what I've seen in the mediumship, the mediums, and coming at this also with full training in magic and mentalism as a psychic entertainer, looking for fraud, there's an awful lot of really good evidence out there. And that doesn't even count the laboratory work.
One of the most well-known hauntings or cases that people may remember because of the television shows as well as the movie, The Conjuring, was that of the Perron family. What is your take on that? Do you think that this was an actual haunting, that there were demonic forces at work, or do you think that there's another explanation for what has been misinterpreted as the paranormal?
Well, there are a few problems with the Perron case, and any of the cases that Ed and Lorraine Warren were involved in, frankly.
Okay.
And that is that they were intent on finding the demonic almost everywhere. They include, and I know of a couple cases that when I worked at the ASPR in New York, they were in Connecticut.
Yeah.
And there were a couple of cases that were pretty clearly not even paranormal at all, but they'd been told that it was demonic. Mm-hmm. And there was a normal explanation for what had been going on. So that was their personal belief. I don't think that they were necessarily scamming anybody, but I think, they went in looking for that. So I wouldn't be surprised if the parent family had some actual activity in their home. The question of what that was has been colored through the lens of demons and demonic forces by the Warrens. I will, in October, be meeting one of the parent family, and I'm interested to talk to her and kind of really, as a parapsychologist,
right,
see if I can interpret what her experiences were.
I've had the pleasure of talking to, I think her name is Andrea Perrin.
Yeah, I think that's who's going to be there.
Yeah. And she's now in, she was telling me about what happened at her house. I had the pleasure of meeting her father. And she's also now talking about mile-wide UFOs that she's seen over the house while the hauntings were going on. And it seems that there's more being added to this story as society looks for new things to talk about.
That's a shame.
Yeah.
I have to go back to when the story was originally reported.
Mm-hmm.
And, there are other cases I know the Warrens were involved in, which were, and other people who claimed that they were demonic forces, and they were poltergeist cases. They were cases of someone's unconscious causing the activity, not an external force. And they were interpreted negatively as demonic, just like ghost hunters love to interpret such a place as being demonically haunted simply because they get an EVP that says "get out."
Uh-huh. Tell me, are there demonic forces out there, in your opinion?
I don't believe so. I would not be surprised if there are things that can hurt us, and I'm not talking about conscious things, but certainly fire can hurt us, but fire can also be used in other ways, positive ways too. There are, from what we've seen in some of the actual apparition cases, there are certainly people who are bullies. They were bullies when they were alive, and they're still trying to bully people and scare people now that they're dead because their personalities haven't changed that much. But you can stand up to that bully because that bully can't do anything to you, can't physically do anything to you. So we do have those kinds of situations, and there are people who were probably pretty unpleasant when they were alive. They're still unpleasant, but most apparitions tend to be friendly or at least apathetic, I should say, like most human beings who are alive.
Have you heard of many cases where there has been a full apparition that has materialized?
Well, a full apparition as seen by someone. There's no materialization that's actually happening the way we think of it. You could have a room that's in a house that's incredibly haunted with a ghost, with an actual apparition. And 10 people in the room, 2 people might see the apparition and hear the apparition speaking. 2 other people might hear the voice of the apparition. 1 other person might sense a presence. Another person might smell the cologne or perfume. And the rest, they don't have any experience at all because it's not a thing that you're seeing through your eyes or hearing through your ears or smelling through your nose. It's all a mental impression of what that person thinks of themselves, what they look like, what they are.
So that, therefore, what you just said would nullify any validity for an EVP.
Yes, well, the definition of electronic voice phenomena, in actuality, from the researchers, back as far back as the 40s, is a voice that appears on a recording medium without having been heard or worked through the microphone. In fact, there are EVPs that have been gathered over the years with no microphone involved, with the microphone disabled in devices. So it's by definition, it's electronically created by the mind that we hope of the spirit or by a living person for that matter.
Loyd, the time has gone by so fast. First of all, I want to thank you ever so much for coming back on the show. Don't be a stranger. If there's anything we can help you with, just let us know. Regards to Sally and the fine people at the Ryan Research Group. And congratulations on your new book, Psychic Dreaming, Dreamworking, Reincarnation, Out-of-Body Experiences, and Clairvoyance.
Thank you, Rob.
Take care, Loyd. Speak to you soon. Exonation, once again, if you'd like to keep in touch with Loyd, you can join him on Twitter, and that's at Prof Paranormal. This is the X Zone. I am Rob McConnell. We'll be back on the other side of this break as we continue investigating the world of the paranormal and the science of parapsychology from our broadcast center right here in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Don't go away.